Hearing to consider a request for the interpretation by the Ag Tourism Coalition regarding Land Use Ordinance Section 22.30.610, Temporary Events and Agriculture and Open Space Element, Ag Policy 6. County File Number DTM 2008-00000, all supervisorial districts. Karen Nall, Project Manager.
Good morning, Commissioners. Karen Nall, Planning Staff. Warren Hogue is signaling me he wants to make a comment.
Yes, I do. What I wanted to clarify for the Commission is the process and procedure that you're dealing with today. This has been referred to as an appeal, but it's technically not an appeal. It's a request for interpretation under a specific provision of the Land Use Ordinance. And it's in a chapter of the Land Use Ordinance that sets out the rules for how the ordinance is to be administered and interpreted. And it gives the primary responsibility for that to the planning director and his or her assigns, which is the staff. And it talks about various particular ways to interpret certain specific types of details, but then it goes on to say that if there is if questions arise regarding the interpretation and administration of the ordinance, then a person may request that a formal interpretation be made by first your planning commission, and after you ascertain all the facts and make your determinations, you do that by adopting a resolution, and then it goes to the board automatically. They review the planning commission's recommendation, they ascertain the facts and make their own interpretation, and then their interpretation becomes final. The distinction here is that what's being considered is the current ordinance being administered properly, consistently, fairly, the way it's written now. This is different than an ordinance amendment process where there may be a proposal to change how we're doing things, to make a substantial policy shift. And that, in fact, is the case with temporary events. There is the special events ordinance amendment process that has been underway for quite some time, as your commission is quite familiar with, and your commission has sent a request to the Board of Supervisors for more direction on that. And that is the time to look at these, establishing these major policy shifts or changes in how we do things now. So what your focus is today, and Karen will be giving the detailed staff report in just a moment, is this a proper and fair way to administer the ordinance as it is currently written? And what I would encourage your commission to consider is that what staff has tried to do is be consistent and in its application of the ordinance over a long period of time, and that's partly in the staff report that's been given to you. So what I would ask you to consider is this isn't the time to make a major policy shift. That's an independent process. It's fairly consider both sides of the story here and decide whether the ordinance is currently being fairly administered. Adopt your facts and then send those on to the board. So your decision's not final. There's no necessity to file an appeal of your decision because the process automatically sends it on to the board. And depending on when your commission finishes its deliberations on this matter, if it's today, then we probably would get it to the board in late fall. If it takes more time for your commission to reach a deliberation, then it will take longer to get it to the board. So I just wanted to make sure you understood the context of what you're considering today. So there isn't an appellant. There is, as Commissioner Christian put it earlier, a requestor for an interpretation. And there are a variety of points of view, I'm sure, that will be represented in the audience. You will hear those. You'll weigh the staff report, you'll weigh the letter from the requestors, the letter from the Ag Department, the public testimony that you received today, and then you'll make your best decision. So at this point, then, I would like Karen Nall, Senior Planner, to go into the specifics of this particular interpretation request.
Excuse me, Mr. Hogue. Just in light of the fact that we've received multiple letters and requests for us to pass on this item and just defer it to the supervisors, I just want to make sure people are clear that this is part of the ordinance of our job and automatically going to the supervisors after we hear it, because that's something it's just what you've said, but I just want to make sure people here are hearing that, guessing that some of the people in the audience here and ready to speak today have been amongst those that have requested that we take a pass on this, that's not an option by ordinance.
I'd be
correct?
happy to emphasize that point. Your obligation under the ordinance is to reach a conclusion on these issues. But your conclusion's not final. It goes to the board no matter what. So, it really isn't within your purview to say, we're not gonna do anything, we'll let the board decide.
Right, thank you.
You need to reach a conclusion.
Thank you for stressing that point, and thanks for your clarification of the process, because given all the communications we've got, it appeared that there was some misunderstanding out
Well,
there about what our role was.
This is a fairly obscure part of the ordinance, and we don't get these very often, maybe once in the last 3 years or so.
Yeah.
So I thought it would help to just frame it for the audience and for your commission.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Snow?
Okay, thank you. That reduces my presentation because I was going to say
Sorry,
the same
Karen.
thing, but Warren says it better.